most of us have grown up being told to sit down, be quiet, stop crying, you know, don't express how you feel. And those emotions don't just like disappear when we don't feel them, like they do remain with us. And I think it's really important for people to understand.
Talking can only get you so far. Like, you need to understand how you shift these physical sensations, or how you kind of like find ways to move through them to just help dissipate whatever's going on.
Imagine all the times in childhood that you had a rupture, which means, you know, it's an argument, maybe, you know, you were bullied or you didn't do well at school, all these different life experiences. Like, when we experience them, if we're not able to just naturally cry and then move and then receive safety, receive co-regulation afterwards and be like, okay, the world is safe and I'm okay, then that emotion, that experience is still within you somewhere.
It is good to just do sometimes.
Yeah, no.
Which kind of almost feels a little bit counterintuitive to how you kind of like feel healing's meant to be. But like, you know, the act of doing has been so beneficial for me.
Yeah, you just need to reconnect with your body in a safe way, understand some of the awful things that are in your head that are really stopping you from being just like, not even the best version of yourself, but just like your authentic self, like who you actually are. And I think that really starts with the mind, and then creating that safety in feeling your emotions. It doesn't have to be all of this big fancy stuff. It's just letting yourself feel and holding yourself with compassion when that happens. It's okay that you need to slow things down, and that you need to slow things down. You don't need to do the 10Ks and you know, in the cold dips to be worthy. There's so much more within you that you're not kind of tapping into. Just chill out. You don't have to be perfect to be loved. You can just be yourself. Like, that's enough.
Woman! WoeMan! WoeMan!
And we are good to go. Oh,
And
God, it's
breathe.
nice to sit, I know, and sit down. Right, that can go.
Sorted.
Right, so Jess, thank you so much for coming to join me out in the wonderful Northumberland Park.
Cool.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Jess is a holistic therapist whom I went to a few years ago now to just help me with my mental health, because I got to a place with therapy, like traditional talking therapy, where like I learned enough about myself, and I still had kind of like knots and discomforts in my body, which I didn't know how to shift, which no amount of talking and unraveling could like help me like reach and understand. So kind of like went to Jess with like an open mind and a bit of an open heart, because I just needed just that little bit more help and understanding of like, you know, what's going on like internally. Like, where are these like anxious waves and spells coming from? So like, it was Kundalini breath work that we did, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, like anything like breath worky, like my like introduction into that was like Wim Hof stuff through lockdown, which was incredible.
Yeah.
But that was like my intro into it, and I was okay, like this works. Already understand that it kind of gives me just a feeling of calm and euphoria. But you know, that was like my introduction into like, right, what other forms of breath work are there? And then from knowing that you did it, and also like did like Kundalini stuff, I was like, okay, like let's just explore that, you know, what's the worst that could happen? And I remember going to that Kundalini breathwork class with no expectations and coming away feeling like I just had like the lid of my brain blown off, because like it was a really weird sensation, because I remember like going through this like breath work, and you breathing in and out, and it just like this intensity just builds and builds over like half an hour. And I've always said that like I've had like this little knot in my stomach, which always felt like a white hot ball of energy. And I could never quite understand what it was or why it was there, but I knew it was important, because like whenever my anxiety was at its like highest, I could feel something there, but I could never get myself to a place where I could let it out. And like I remember after, like during that breath work, like just getting to a place where all this like anger started spilling out, and I was like shouting at the top of my lungs, like screaming, which surprised me. But I remember you just kind of being like, lean into it, like scream more if you want to, like you know, just, you know, go for it. And then after I got all that out, I then felt this like, it almost kind of like a word just like slapped me on my forehead. And I was just like, self-loathing.
Wow.
Like that's what I've been feeling, and that's what that little like white hot ball is. It's like self-loathing. And what that all relates to, like I don't necessarily need to dig into now because there's so much to dig into, but it was just kind of like hatred for how I would deal with things, like not like not feeling brave enough, not being able to kind of like battle against my fears, and I would just kind of hold it all and push it down, and that's what all that like kind of like stood for. And when that kind of just slapped me clean on my forehead in your like session, I think that's when like I kind of just started to cry, because I was like, oh my God, like I just kind of understand that a little bit more, and like those physical sensations, and like what that like white hot ball of energy, like what I've been like storing in my stomach. And then from there, that's kind of when I was just like, oh my God, like I know where I can go and who I can go to when I kind of need these sessions where understanding doesn't quite cut it anymore. Like I need to kind of connect with my body again to just shift internal emotion, which I can't quite reach or connect with. So with that being said, because that was my introduction into Jess, but you tell me a little bit more about yourself and what you do, and just the benefits of like connecting with your body.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that though, Alex, because that's like beautifully told, and it's exactly what it's here for. You know, what you've experienced there I think is so common for so many people. So what my job is helping people, first of all, be conscious of what's in the mind. I think that's really important. We can't override that. Understand our patterns, what stories, what beliefs are we telling ourselves, like what's running the show. We really need to know that first and understand it. But like you said, once you've done that bit, sometimes you're a bit like, okay, where do I go here? I'm still feeling all these different things. I'm not making actual change. And this is when I think we've really got to tap into the body, because most of us have grown up being told to sit down, be quiet, stop crying, you know, don't express how you feel. And those emotions don't just like disappear when we don't feel them. Like they do remain with us. And I think it's really important for people to understand, because a lot of the time when people have got, it could be like stomach issues, skin issues, migraines. There's so many different ways that this affects the body. But it doesn't have to be chronic health. It can be just like physical posture as well, how you hold yourself, how you breathe. That is your emotions, you know, not physically in the body, but it's a pattern that's being created within the body every time you experience those emotions. So because you had that self-loathing, it would probably pop up. You might have had an experience where you're like, oh, you know, that's so intense and it activated that emotion, but you didn't feel safe in your body to hold that emotion. So it got pushed down into your stomach. And you can imagine over time, you know, decades worth of doing that, you know, it really starts to speak to you. Your body has an amazing capacity, but then it gets to the point where it's like, okay, hold on a minute, like we need to do something about this, and you're not doing anything about it. And that's when we can tap into the body and create a level of safety, whether that's with someone else or on your own, to begin to feel these emotions at their entirety, and then bring your body back to safety.
Yeah, because it is like a strange thing that, you know, because you do, and like I mentioned before, like the perception of therapy, I think often when you start your journey into therapy, and because it's so often prescribed by GPs and the NHS, is that right? Go to talking therapies, find a counsellor, go to a psychiatrist. And yes, they all have their place. But at the same time, it's so important to not discount, you know, breath work and body work and learning how to connect with your body. Because, as you say, like, it kind of almost seems like, well, of course, like your body holds and stores, because that's kind of what anxiety is. It's like, you know, chemicals, it's like physical changes like in your body that cause these waves and these worries and these sensations. And, you know, talking can only get you so far. Like you need to understand how you shift these physical sensations, or how you kind of like find ways to move through them to just help dissipate whatever's going on. And, you know, it's kind of like, you know, when I've found and seen so many things recently where it's like, you know, dance is kind of like proven to be one of like the best ways of dealing with things like anxiety or depression. I mean, again, I'm going to caveat that because you might need to fact check me there.
No,
But
yeah,
within
there's a lot in
reason, it
there,
is really good to help you just kind of like move through certain tough moments.
Completely.
And I've always said, like, throughout like my life, like whenever I've like been out with friends or going on nights out, you know, I've discovered over the years that like I just want to go out and I love to dance.
Oh, yeah.
And that's my whole focus. It's like I just want to dance and I want to move. And I think knowing all this and knowing what I do now,
makes sense.
it makes sense because I've always just felt happy and euphoric after I've had a good dance.
Yeah.
And of course that's through movement and sharing, again, like, you know, sharing a space with people and enjoying in that moment as well, but like movement plays a lot into that.
God, you're so right, because I think the issue that we have in this day and age is like we're living in a very unnatural world, so we're feeling a lot of intense emotions, but we're all so stagnant. Most of us sit at a desk all day, every day, and then when we are moving, it's very like we're going to the gym and lifting weights perhaps, or, you know, we're going for a run, and all of those things are great, we should do them, but there's a real beauty in things like dance and yoga where we're really feeling into all these different parts of the body, because that's when we can really release, and it becomes like more of like an intuitive movement rather than like a focused movement. But, you know, back in the day, like people like were labourers, weren't they? They worked hard, they moved their body all day, they sweated, they moved, whereas we're just not quite getting that. We're quite out of touch with our bodies and we're very much living in our heads. It's just like the way that society's evolved, but I think people are really starting to pay the consequences for that now. We're starting to notice that, whether it's mental or physical health.
So like, what would you say then are some of, you know, what would you say to someone who isn't understanding of the benefits of what like holistic therapy can give them? And like, what would you say to them to kind of maybe like dispel any preconceived perceptions of like what holistic therapy actually is?
Totally. I think it's really nice now, and I feel very lucky that we're in a time where there's so much hard science now to back this stuff up. When I first started out, I was quite nervous to talk about what I did because I was quite scared of judgment, of like, well, that's not just normal, you know, it's not what everyone does. But it had such a profound impact in my life, I knew that I needed to do it. So I would talk to them a bit about the science first, you know, and you've got amazing people like Peter Levine and Stephen Porges, Gabriel Maté, and they're every now and they're talking about this. So I like to talk about it in the fact of, imagine like a rupture and repair. Imagine all the times in childhood that you had a rupture, which means, you know, it's an argument, maybe, you know, you were bullied or you didn't do well at school, all these different life experiences. Like when we experience them, if we're not able to just naturally cry and then move and then receive safety, receive co-regulation afterwards and be like, okay, the world is safe and I'm okay, then that emotion, that experience is still within you somewhere. And again, that might sound a little bit woo-woo, but the more you lean into this stuff, it makes sense. So what Peter Levine says is that we need to like discharge this energy we have, basically. Otherwise, every time you get in a situation that kind of reminds you of that past experience, that, or like you said, the hormones, the chemicals, the nervous system, the tightness is going to get activated again. I like to say, like, how often are you like, oh my God, why am I responding like this? In my logical brain, everything's fine, but I'm having this really big reaction, and then we shame ourselves, blame ourselves and push it down in a way. That's because that reaction in your body is probably something from childhood. It's a childhood reaction to something, but you can't just explain it away in the mind. You know, you've got to be able to feel it and come to what I call, well, not what I call, what it's called, a repair. So that means it's like what you did, you shouted, you screamed, and then I was there to co-regulate with you to say, everything's safe, everything's okay, you know, you're meant to do that, you're allowed to do that. Whereas most people in their past, if they screamed and shouted, they would have had a parent go, stop doing that. And, you know, that's not parents' fault. That's just the way they were brought up. That's all they knew.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I also remember through all like the bodywork and breathwork stuff, I always kind of thought, right, you know, where did all this anxiety come from? You know, where did I first feel the physical sensations of anxiety? Because it's one thing to mentally take yourself out of a situation that you know is going to cause you to feel anxious
Yeah.
before you feel the physical sensations come.
For sure.
But then it's another thing to actually be in a position where you feel the physical sensations and also remember where those physical sensations first started from like a young age.
Yeah, of course.
And I remember, and this is no shade on my younger sister,
yeah.
but I remember the first time I physically felt anxiety and worry in my body was when I was 8 years old and my younger sister wasn't even born yet, but my mum was pregnant.
Yeah.
And I think I started to have a mild panic because I was like, oh my God, my mum's going to have another child.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'd already had an older sister, but I was like, oh my God, mum's going to have another child. I'm going to be forgotten about.
Yeah.
And
completely
I
valid.
remember like going to school and not being able to focus, constantly looking out the window, trying to see if I could find my mum's car.
Yeah.
Because my worry was like, she's not going to pick me up from school one day. I'm going to
be
go to
forgotten
school
about, yeah.
and she's not going to come and get me. And I remember just like being in school and like my focus would go, like my teachers would be like, Alex, like
Yeah.
come back, like, and I'd just be gone.
Yeah.
And it was only when I started to like do breath work and kind of like connect with my body that way, like, I don't know, like something just clicked where I was like, oh my God, like the physical sensations of anxiety that I recognize now, I could kind of like link back to then. I was like, oh God, I can remember like I felt like this then.
Incredible.
And I could kind of like just, you know, like, not that I needed that understanding because I knew I struggled with that then, but
Yeah.
like it was just connecting that physical sensation with, oh, I've felt this before.
yeah.
And I was 8 years old when I felt it.
Wow.
And it was like weird to kind of think, God,
Link
those
them
physical sensations like go all the way back to when I was
Yeah.
8.
But it's so true, and like I think what you're touching on is really beautiful because obviously with our adult minds, you're like, of course you're going to be okay. No, like mum's still going to love you. But as a child, your primary thing is survival. Like you need to be able to survive. So you're constantly scanning for reasons how you are going to survive or you're not going to. Like what's dangerous and what's safe. And for you, that signaled, okay, that might not be safe. Like, how am I going to receive love? Like, is there going to be enough love, you know, for me in that situation? And what that's done is it's activated an activation in your system. So you had this mobilizing energy of survival. So if you go further back to like, you know, to cavemen times, as we now know, that activation is like, okay, I need to fight, flee or run. And that's what was activated for you because you're like, I need to survive. But you didn't fight, flee or run. You were just sat at school at a desk, you know, with all of that energy running and coursing through you. And then, yeah, you might have reached some levels of calm, but because you didn't ever discharge that mobilized energy, like it continued to build and build and build. And then that's what creates part of our personality. You know, we were like, oh, you know, actually I'm quite an anxious person. I doubt that I'm going to be able to do this and that. And it's just because we've got all of this energy in our body that needs to be processed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, moving away from my own experiences,
No, I love
although
it.
I do have enough of them, when was it that you first started dipping your toe in the pond or exploring like holistic therapy and feeling like you needed it for yourself? Because I'm assuming it wasn't something where you just kind of thought, oh, I want to do this because I see the benefit in this and I want to help people. Like,
yeah.
did it come from a place of, I know that it's benefited me, so therefore I'm going to go into it?
Kind of. I think I've always had a tumultuous relationship with my physical body. I've always had like chronic health issues from a young age and just kind of rose above my body and kind of like ignored them. So I always had like IBS, asthma, eczema, allergies. So just like little things that you could live with. It wasn't impacting me massively, but they were just bubbling under the surface. And then I actually decided to become a therapist before I'd even had therapy before. I just had such this passion and drive to help people. I was working in a pupil referral unit and I was like, oh my God, like I need to help these children, like understand their minds. And it was funny, like it's so naive when I went into to be a therapist. I was like, I don't need anything. Like I'm absolutely fine. I just need to help other people. And then literally my mental health has never been as bad whilst doing that training because I was like, wow, oh my God, I had no idea that I actually had all this work to do on myself. So that was like 7 years ago and we had to get our own therapy throughout that. But I just realized that when I became a therapist and then got therapy, I was so aware. I was really aware. My mind switched on and it was drrr. I was noticing patterns in myself. I was noticing patterns in other people. And I actually developed like a bit of social anxiety. I couldn't just chill in a social situation because I was like, oh, I wonder if their parents did that to them. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had too much information in my mind. So for me, the chronic illness kind of increased with that because I had so much busyness in my mind and I was never calm or chilling in my body. I was always doing the 10Ks, the cold dips, the most intense, high, like the Wim Hof, really high regulating stuff. Anything like a yin yoga, I was like, ugh, pathetic.
Yeah.
Why would I do that? Like, that's so pointless.
I want to go all in.
Yeah.
I want to feel something.
Yes.
I want to like, you know, panic in an ice bath.
Yeah, literally, I want to suffer. I want to put myself through. But I could do all those things because I rose above my body. I was just never in touch with my body. It's only literally been in the last few years that I've realized that whenever I did do, you know, in meditations they say feel your body. I was picturing the body part in my head, but I wasn't actually feeling it in my body. I was so detached. So when I started to work with my body and create a bit more safety, it's this counterintuitive thing that can sometimes happen, that I began to create safety in the body, and then all of this chronic health that I'd been pushing away and avoiding for so long kind of came up. And that's when my real somatic journey began. It wasn't just like a light touch. It was like, wow, okay, how do I create safety within my body? Because it was really scary, you know, to be in your head for so many years and then to crash land in your body so intensely. I don't think I did it in the right way. I don't think I did it in the safest way. I think I did talk therapy, I did energy work, and then I went boom, like in the middle of here, and it was really intense. So that's why my passion now is like, this work is so beautiful, but it has to be done safely and it has to be done in a certain way, specific to each person and their own sensitivities, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I've digressed.
No, not at all. So in terms of like, going back to your chronic health conditions, because I know that's played like a huge part recently in your own journey.
Yeah.
And I've seen you put videos out about like your skin and like eczema and how it's affected you. And because, you know, your skin, your body, your face, like when anything happens to it that physically people can see, like I can imagine it causes a lot of like social anxiety and wanting to kind of retreat until you feel better.
Definitely.
You know, how, and the only reason I want to talk about this as well is because, you know, just in terms of, you know, again, that connection with your body.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's nothing that makes you need to connect with your body more and become comfortable with your body and the physical sensations of anxiety, worry that comes with it, then having to just accept who you are on the surface and come to terms with that internally. So like, what's that journey been like for you? Because I know you've really been through it with like your skin and the flare-ups and...
For sure. Yeah, it's been the most life-changing thing I've ever experienced. You know, I really think about my life like before 30 and after 30, and I just feel like two completely different people. I think prior to that I was very busy, very high energy, very social, out all the time, and quite codependent. Actually, I always needed to be around other people. I never felt like safe on my own. And then the skin thing happened, and although it's like one of the hardest things, I do fundamentally believe it was the perfect set of experiences to teach me what I needed to do for myself, and then also to be the practitioner that I am now. So it did completely cause me to retreat, and I had a lot of shame for a while because I was like, just, you know, be confident and go out and do all of these things. But the reality is, it is so hard. And when you're going through trauma, and it's taken me a while to call it a trauma, because every morning I had no idea what was going to happen. Was I going to have these new yellow crusts all over my face? Was my face going to be completely swollen? Like, some of the ways that I've seen my face, it like didn't even look like me. There was so much going on. You know, I lost total control of the regulation of my body temperature. I had insomnia at some points, and even when those things go, you then have a fear of, when is that going to come back? Is that going to come back? And how am I going to be able to deal with it? So isolation felt safe for me. And I also needed that time alone, because I'd realized that I wasn't connected to my body when I was around other people. I was such a chronic people pleaser that I was inside your energy field 24/7. You know, what does Alex want? What does he need? Like my tone of voice, my body language, I want to please whoever the person is that I'm with. So I needed that. You know, I was in Bali by myself for like 4 months when my skin was at its worst. And it was like the hardest and best time because I was like, what is my energy? How do I feel? What do I want aside from anyone else? So, and then caveat with the fact that you're in Bali and your face looks like you're burnt and you've got skin peeling and, you know, everyone around you is like these goddess, you know, tanned Bali people. So it was a really intense combination, but it has taught me that my value isn't in the way that I look. I still struggle with it because we live in a society that really, really tells us that the way we look is indicative of what we're worth. So yeah, it's definitely been a difficult journey, but it's made me treat my body with a lot more kindness, a lot more compassion, and less forcing and pushing, and actually realizing that doesn't just have an endless capacity to do whatever I want it to do. Like it needs a time and attention, and it needs to be spoken to, which is going to sound woo-woo, but actually when you take the time to sit and feel your body and ask, okay, like what do you need today? Just like you got that word slapped, you know, in your face, like the body tells you things. There's a wisdom in there that we're totally overriding.
I think often like you do things for yourself very naturally, which you probably don't realise is important for you.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was struggling with tinnitus for the first time, and also I went to you because I was just, you know, like a frayed edge. I was just unravelling at the seams. And I remember like being in my room at night and again not being able to sleep, struggling with insomnia because my body was just so dysregulated. I couldn't relax. And like I'd have moments where like naturally without anyone telling me, like I would just like cuddle myself and just rock and be like, you know what, I'm okay, everything's gonna be fine, like I'm gonna be safe. And that was just so natural. And then obviously once you get more into, you know, the depths of, you know, what works and how you connect with your body more, like you see loads of people say, you know, like hug yourself, rub yourself, tap yourself and things like this. And like all these things I was doing naturally, just in those moments when things felt darkest, but no one told me to do that. It was just like, oh God, I feel like I need this, like I don't know what else to do. And like my body going, just grab yourself, hold yourself, tell yourself you're going to be okay. Like, and you know, I still do that. Not regularly, I don't do it all the time, but like when I need it, you know, like I'll speak to myself in the mirror. I'll see at the start of the morning, like, you know, you're strong, you're resilient, you're powerful, like, you know, like all just nice little affirmations. And now and again, if I do just feel a bit tender, and I found again, like the whole like hugging myself and stuff, whenever I feel like I've got like tears or like this need to cry, because I found that so hard for me to connect with. Like I found crying so hard again until I did the breath work and body work with you, and I've been able to connect with myself more that way. That now when those moments come up when I just feel an overwhelming sense of like sadness inside me, I'm like, oh, where's this coming from? I'll often take myself away to a comfortable space and just hug myself and maybe put a little bit of sad music on to just really lean into it and just kind of like rock myself and be like, you know what, like cry, it's okay to cry. And I'll find myself it building up and like allowing myself to do it. But you know, just all these things you just kind of like pick up and build up over time that you realise, okay, I'm gonna see if this works for me now. Let's try it in this moment. And I still do struggle with crying. I still do struggle to connect with it. But like, I know that in moments, like I can kind of like bring it out of me just by kind of like doing nothing more than just holding myself and being like, right, let's lean into this, let's go. And if, you know what, someone might watch this and think like, that sounds mental. But like, if it works, it works. Like, who am I to fight it?
Oh my God, Alex, there's so much in what you just said that I want to like break down, because first of all, the intuition part is huge. Like I used to focus on like, I need to find every single movement that people can do, and I used to try and like research all of this stuff, but like actually, like, your body intuitively knows exactly what it wants to do. So although I do have a toolbox of things, ways that I can help people, my biggest thing is, like, once you are in a safe environment, let your body do what it needs to do, because it already knows.
Yeah.
And the fact that you created that softness and acceptance with yourself, I think what's nice is that we did some work together. So you learned how to do it with the safety of someone else, which can be really important for that co-regulation. But you don't actually need to do it that many times to then be able to do that again, because you've built a blueprint in your brain to be like, okay, like, I let that happen and that was safe. And sometimes it's only 2-3 times to do that, to kind of rewire that in your brain. So when you're in your own time, like, I'm just going to close my eyes, I'm going to go inwards and just see what comes up, and see, honestly, the movements and stuff that come from my body now, because I've been doing this for a long time, really strange, spinal stuff, like arm stuff, like mudras. And at first I thought it was this, like, weird and mystical thing, but it's not. Mudras had to come from somewhere. And it's just people breathing and being into their body, and the body knows exactly what it needs to do to release what it needs.
Yeah. And what is mudras?
Mudras are what people do in yoga. So it's connecting different, like, fingers in different ways. You will have seen people do it, and it means different things. It connects to different parts of your body. So you can actually just look at what a mudra means and do that.
Okay.
But my body was just doing them naturally. I didn't know what they meant, but it's just trusting that I knew that it felt really good in my body, and it was able to do that. So I'm so happy that you've begun to create that safety with yourself. And because when you do those movements, you can think, like, oh God, like, am I being weird? But it's like, no, this is exactly what your body needs in that moment.
Yeah. So, just going back to what you were saying before about, the things that you struggle with. So obviously, you still have your ups and downs, like anybody does, with,
Totally.
your skin and other things that you might go through. What is it that you turn to when, you hit those, like, points again? What helps you regulate? What helps you kind of, like, move through those moments for yourself?
So I used to be very heavily reliant on the mind. So I'm like, I need to journal through this. I need to explore this. But I realized over time, once I had the basis understanding of my patterns, that I would notice that I was in the same loop again. Maybe I'm doubting myself, or I'm worrying about something I've said to someone, whether I've upset them. That's not new. I don't need to look into that and write more journal prompts about it. The reason I'm still thinking about it is because this is still in my body. So it's the bit that I still have resistance to, even this long, but I know it's what my body needs. So that is literally, I'll do what you said, I'll close my eyes, put my hands on my body and go, like, body, what do you need? And usually my bottom lip goes and I need to have a good cry. Crying releases so many beautiful chemicals that literally calms us down and takes us out of that dysregulated state. But I also want to talk about, and this is something I'm really passionate about, is the absolute basics with this bodywork stuff. For me, what's been a game changer is sleep, water and food, which sounds so, like, duh, but, like, I had totally overridden kind of those things with my body, and I would just, like, I was doing quite a lot of intermittent fasting, and I would drink coffee on an empty stomach and realize why I was riddled with anxiety for the whole day. For me, a big thing when I'm panicking and I'm worrying, I'm like, hold on a minute, okay, like, where am I at? What have I eaten today? Actually, I didn't sleep well last night. Could that be why I'm spiraling with these thoughts and feelings? So for me, I've created a bit of a hierarchy of self-care, and going back to those foundations is really, really important. And then you can go into the, the self-touch, the self-soothe and the breath work and all those other things.
And how do you trust and find a confidence and a more positive connection with your body when, and I'm just using your the issues that you've had with your skin as an example, like, how do you trust and connect with your body in a positive way when maybe you still wake up and look in the mirror and still see that, like, there maybe hasn't been a change, or I'm still struggling, like, my skin hasn't calmed down. How do you find, like, a calmness within that, to just, and I suppose a better word is, like, an acceptance?
Yeah, totally. And I think that's what it's forced me to do, because it's been so long. I was like, oh, in a year, like this should, like, you know, resolve itself. But, you know, we're 3 years in now. So it's teaching me a lot of patience. But what you said before about talking to myself in the mirror, I do that a lot. And I think the biggest thing that I've realized that helps soothe me in those moments is that people don't care. People literally couldn't give a monkey's. I remember I was working in Karma Coast one day, my skin was really bad, and I was like, oh, I don't want to be in a people-facing situation. And I remember a lady came in and she was like, how are you, Jess? And I was like, oh, I'm okay, you know, like my skin's not great. And she was like, do you know what? I didn't actually really notice your skin, but I noticed how low your energy was. And I'm so pleased that she said that to me, because it's what I needed to hear. And it's that people resonate with your energy way more than your physical appearance. The physical appearance feels much more something you have to cling on to from like your own ego and your own stuff. So I always remind myself in those moments that like things are going to improve, but even if they don't, like this is, my body has its own natural timing. Like I do have to speak to myself a lot with words. That does soothe me. And then music. Every single time I do a bit of that soothing, I talk to myself, do some breath, making sure I'm breathing deep into my belly, because for a long time I was like holding my breath and breathing into my chest. So deep belly breathing, and then I'll put my favourite songs on and I dance like an idiot.
Yeah.
And that usually does the trick to just kind of zoom out and be like, do you know what, Jess, there's bigger stuff going on. I still honour where I am and it's hard, but I've got a bigger mission, you know, there's other things that I want to do and I need to move through that.
Because I suppose it is, it's like, because it must be hard to know that, right, this is something I need to work on myself, this is something I need to kind of deal with myself, but also, like what you mentioned earlier, just also getting over those social expectations of, right, I have come to terms with it and I have accepted this for myself, but I also have to kind of find a space and a place and time where I'm comfortable with society's expectations. And that must be, that's like another level of acceptance as well, as like, you know, just dealing with society's expectations. And has that like played a role for you as well, in terms of like it's one thing for me to see me how I do, but then it's another thing to be like, but what's society thinking about me? What's society like looking at me? You know?
God, yeah. I mean, it's a huge struggle. My ego was so wrapped up in the way that I looked. Like just before my skin stuff happened, I'd reached a point in my life where I was like, I really like the way I look. I'd worked hard in the gym. I finally had a tan, and for me that had been a huge thing in my life. I've always been pale, and I just was kind of enjoying the way that I looked. But I think I'd built this perception of myself. I always call it like a bit of a house of cards. It was there and it was up there, but all it took was you know, and then I completely shattered and I completely broke. So I think to be in society and to have people look at you and have opinions, especially when your job is to help other people through this, was so hard. I was like, people aren't going to want to come to me because I'm going through this situation. I've learned that people actually like the fact that I'm practicing what I'm preaching and I've actually been through something. But it's still difficult. People tend to be absolutely lovely and, you know, they don't care and they don't mind. It's more me and what I feel internally. And what I found recently actually is that when you go through prolonged chronic stress and trauma like I have, there's a part of the brain which is needed for connection that literally like switches off. So the desire to connect with people really diminishes, and I really experienced that. I was like, I just want to be by myself and chilling. Because to be with other people feels too intense and too complex. I'm too in my own head about what I've got going on. I can't be there with the other person.
Yeah, like, I totally get that, because often when I'd hit like a low point, close friends and people would often say to me like, oh, you're like retreating, like you're wanting to like be on your own. And you know, there's a time and a place to do that, to just kind of like connect with yourself and be like, right, let's just calm down, let's just do the things that I want to do.
Definitely.
But there's definitely moments where, and I've seen you speak about this, where you do kind of think, look, I need to start going out there and living my life. And even if I am feeling anxious, do things anxious.
Yeah, which is hard.
Which is so hard, but it is, important to like, because I think I'd always think, right, you heal in isolation.
Yeah.
That like you go to therapy, you close down, right, let's not be as social, let's batten down the hatches, let's talk in therapy and let's kind of like do things and I'll get back out there when I'm good and ready.
Yes, totally.
But I think sometimes, particularly with things like anxiety or where you've built up these scenarios where, you know, before a situation's even occurred, you're already feeling the anxiety of doing it.
Yeah.
Like it's in those situations where it's like, well, actually, if I'm going to feel like that anyway, and if I'm feeling it now before it's even happening, like, even if it's just for like a couple of minutes or however long I can do it, like go out there and do it.
Totally.
You know, like go to work, try and work, and I'm not saying that like, you know, work through anxiety, just don't listen to it and just go to work and crack on. Like if you need time off, have time off. But there is also a balancing act of, you know, there's something to be said for just getting up and doing.
Yeah.
And being like, right, no, I can do this. Definitely. And teaching your body to be like, look, I can still do work. I can still go out there and be social. I can still have a nice time with friends.
Definitely.
Because, you know, and it's kind of just that thing as well, like where like, sometimes it is good to have a distraction and to not be indoors and think, right, in order to heal, I need to be or get to like 80% or 100% before I get back out into the world.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, it is good to just do sometimes.
Yeah, no.
Which kind of almost feels a little bit counterintuitive to how you kind of like feel healing's meant to be. But like, you know, the act of doing has been so beneficial for me lately because, you know, particularly with like, they're struggling with like tinnitus, it was like, look, I'm going to hear that indoors or outdoors.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if I'm going to connect with it, I can be speaking to someone, I'm going to hear it when I'm like out with friends.
Yeah.
Or I can struggle indoors on my own and, you know, still feel the same.
Definitely.
And it was just like, I've just got to go out there and I've just got to like live my life still.
Completely, like, and this is the paradox, I think, of healing, and it's like you've got to be aware of where you are and how much you've done to know what the right step is. Like, it's going to be different for everyone because so much information is really generalized and people will take it black and white, like, oh, I've got to be completely in solitude or I've got to be completely in community, and it's like we've got to be able to like move and be flexible throughout that. Like, I've had times where I'm like, right, okay, I feel so much better now, and I plan all these coffees and I do this stuff, but then my nervous system feels super dysregulated, so it's like, right, okay, I've done that little bit, I'm going to retreat a little bit more. It's that titration, like it's like doing little bits and then coming back again and then doing a bit more and coming back again, and that's why you've got to be in communication with your body to know what's right for you at that time. But I think for a lot of people, they're in their heads or what someone's telling them on Instagram. It's like, so-and-so told me to do that, so I'm going to do that, which could be completely wrong for where they are in the body. I've got so many people that will say to me, oh, well, you know, like I don't meditate and stuff. And I'm like, you're deep in a depression. Sat in a meditation for you right now is probably not what you want to do. You know, you want to get up and you want to move your body, you want to be active. And I think everything is different for everyone in different contexts, but I do completely think that sometimes what you think is going to be contradictory is actually what you need. Just when you've figured it out and you're like, okay, this is what I need, the body will do something and you're like, oh, it's back to square one.
To be fair, going what you said there, like, because people talk so much about well-being and they're so much more clued up on, you know, mental health is a thing and, you know, people do struggle and therapy is important, although there's still a lot more work to be done from a wider political standpoint, but we'll not get into that. The amount of information that we are bombarded with now in terms of you need to do this, or like, you know, I see loads of things where it's like old Chinese, like Qigong and things like you need to do this and you know, help like your lymphatic system, or intermittent fasting, or cold dipping, or meditation, breath work. Like, you are bombarded with so many things now, and it's almost like you feel like you need to optimize your mental health. And I think that pushes people further in a position where they can get themselves in a place where they're not even dealing with what it is they need to deal with in the best way, because they're trying to optimize their mental health to a degree where it's like, you can't optimize your brain. You can't get to a point where like you complete mental health and that like you are so on top of who you are and you know yourself completely, that nothing, that you are wearing this body of armor that nothing can penetrate. Like that is just not how things work. But I think this optimization of mental health and all these trends and fads that come out now can often make you think that like there's an end goal.
Definitely.
But like then there isn't an end goal. And going back to what you were saying before, it's like stripping things back to like your base needs of like, am I eating well? Am I drinking enough water? Am I sleeping enough? And am I just getting the basic necessities down of like what I need?
Totally. Yeah.
Because really like it is and can be that simple.
100%. Honestly, like you're really hitting on something that I'm really passionate about at the minute, and I've literally created for my clients like a hierarchy of self-care to try and combat this, because everything that's out there is amazing. You know, there's so much, but you need to know what's bespoke for you at that time in your healing journey. And you also need to get to know your physical body first before you even begin to decide all of those things. So for me, it's like, it's that foundational stuff. Then you go to the body-based stuff, which is like, you know, your yoga and your somatics, and then you can go to your meaning making. So, you know, I just had this incredible breathwork session where I got slapped in the face with this word and what does this mean? And you can make a little bit more sense out of it. Not to get obsessed with it, but you just begin to make some, and then you can go into like energy work and stuff, because you know that like when I'm dysregulated, when I'm regulated, you know, you can do the qigong. Like, how does that make me feel? Like, you've got a framework to work from. Whereas at the minute, I think we're all just flailing in all of these words and all of these things that we don't understand. So it's really about grounding it, I think.
And a lot of it as well is like kind of like follow your gut with it.
Yes.
And I think we're kind of like rounding off nicely at the end of like the episode, I reckon. But like, not to say that I want to shut this down any quicker, because I'm loving talking to you, but I know, you know, I like to kind of keep it to a tight 40. But it's that thing of like, kind of like following your gut, and don't do things just because someone says online in a reel, get up every morning and do this for 10 minutes and you'll be better, or like if cold dip every day. Like, if you don't want to do it and you don't feel like you need to do it,
then don't
like don't do it. Like, I've only ever meandered towards things because I've naturally found myself in a place where I'm like, right, it feels right for me to do this now.
Definitely.
Because the things that I am doing or the things that I have been doing don't seem to be helping anymore. So I need something else, or I need to shift my focus in another way, where it's like, oh, breath work could be it now, or let's do this. Like, you know, if you don't feel like you need to do bloody like lymphatic movements and like, you know, don't do all this in the morning, then like don't do it.
Yeah, completely.
You know, like, you don't need to have like a list of like 10 things that you need to do to kind of like make yourself bulletproof in the morning.
Definitely.
Like,
ultimately,
relax.
Yes. What I was literally just about to like wrap it up with is like, your body is always trying to heal no matter what. Like, it is always trying to come back to an equilibrium, but our mind and our patterns just kind of pull us away from that healing ability. So all of these extra things are great, but what we want them, if they're going to further dysregulate you, further cause stress and get you away from that natural healing ability, then it's not what you need right now. You just need to reconnect with your body in a safe way, understand some of the awful things that are in your head that are really stopping you from being just like, not even the best version of yourself, but just like your authentic self, like who you actually are. And I think that really starts with the mind, and then creating that safety in feeling your emotions. It doesn't have to be all of this big fancy stuff. It's just letting yourself feel and holding yourself with compassion when that happens, and then having the safety to move on with life afterwards and not just stick in it. So it sounds simple, but there is a lot of complexity, there is nuance.
And even if you try to hold yourself with compassion and it doesn't quite work, because there's been times where I've just been so in my head and so angry or so upset that even when I'm trying to do all these things that are nice, so like I'm trying to hold myself and be like, oh God, everything's going to be okay. Like, there is times where I'm like, you're a fucking idiot, like what you're doing, like I feel so uncomfortable, and like that's equally fine, because it doesn't work all the time. And sometimes if it's not working, don't force it.
I love that, and I think I like would like to end it on the fact that like Buddha said that life is struggle, like life is suffering, and it is, but it's because there's so much lessons and so many gifts in the struggling. So if you can get comfortable and allow yourself to struggle, be in it when you're in it, but then come away from it and have the ability to reflect in a regulated space, that's the magic. And that's where we need to get people, and that's what people aren't doing. They're pushing it away, they don't want to think about it, so they're never learning and growing and evolving. So yeah, like you said, nothing's perfect, you're going to get it wrong, sometimes you're going to get it right, but ultimately it's just coming back home to yourself as often as possible, reflecting and holding yourself.
Well, that is bloody beautiful.
Yay!
And before we do actually go, we are going to do some quick fire
Oh
questions.
God, scared.
Frightening.
Activation occurred.
I need to hold myself, I'm going to freak out.
Yes.
So, what is something your body knew before your mind did?
That I needed some alone time, that I needed to learn how to be in solitude. For sure.
Lovely. What does a regulated body actually feel like?
Shoulders down, breathing into the belly, and just a sense that everything's going to be okay. Is that a bird? That's good luck.
That is, I mean, karma is on our side because someone's nearly just been shit on there.
Maybe that was the universe saying, yes, that's right.
Yes,
correct.
you are correct, Jess.
Yeah, either that or you're talking a load of shit.
Do you think that we as a people and a society are more disconnected than ever?
Completely correct, yeah. Like, we're living in our heads, completely out of touch with body. You know, we're drinking, we're shopping, we're eating, we're doing all the fun, like hedonistic stuff without noticing some of that shadow and some of that darker, harder stuff that we need to face, which is in the body.
Lovely. Is there something that you had to learn the hard way?
Not to be so vain, and that nobody cares that much about the way that you look. Like, you're still who you are at your essence, regardless of what the shell, your meat suit looks like, you know what I mean? And focus on that person that's within. And that definitely has come with a struggle.
And one more, what does growth look like to you now?
Ooh, growth looks like getting it wrong, like messing up and still like being there for myself, still loving myself and being like, right, come on, we've got this, still push through. Even when the reality isn't showing like the hard work that I'm putting in, if I'm not getting tangible results, having that trust in knowing everything's going to be okay and things are still evolving.
Actually, I do have one more. Bonus question, just based on what you were saying there. And I know you've probably done this with yourself already.
Yeah.
But I think it would be lovely just to hear you kind of like tell me.
Yeah.
Like, if you were looking back at Jess from however many years ago, who was really struggling with eczema and your skin and how you looked, like, being through what you've been through now and where you are now, what would you say to that version of Jess who couldn't see a way out?
It's interesting. I kind of want to answer your question from the perspective of like before my skin started, because even though my skin was fine, I was completely dissociated from myself and I didn't love myself, even though when I look back at pictures, I'm like, oh my God, you idiot. Like, why did you not see kind of what you look like? So I think I'd want to go back to her and really be gentle. I'd want to shake her a little bit, but go, there is so much more to life. Like, really dig deep and feel like who you are and the depth of who you are. It's okay that you're sensitive. It's okay that you need to slow things down and that you need to slow things down. You don't need to do the 10Ks and you know, in the cold dips to be worthy. There's so much more within you that you're not kind of tapping into. And I can feel myself being harder there than I want to be, but it's because there is that, oh, like, why didn't I see that beforehand? But then I would also give her a big dose of compassion and a big hug, because I think that's really what she needed, to just chill out. You don't have to be perfect to be loved. You can just be yourself. Like, that's enough.
Yeah. Well, that's lovely. Well, on that note, I'll give Big Jess a hug
Yay!
and say thank you.
Oh, thanks so much, Alex. I really enjoyed enjoyed that.
Lovely.
Thank you so much.
Well, this concludes our lovely conversation.
Yay! I love it. Oh, Alex, that was so canny.